Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something truly foundational, money itself.
Yeah, money, it's everywhere, but what is it?
Exactly. You've sent us a really interesting document, moneymanagement.pdf, because, well, you're looking to go beyond just the surface level, right? To really get what makes our financial world tick.
And hopefully have a few of those, moments along the way.
Yeah, consider this your shortcut to getting a much deeper understanding. We're going to try and distill the key stuff.
So our goal today is basically to dissect money
Yeah.
from the ground up. We'll look at where it came from, how it's changed, what it actually does.
And even some of the big kind of competing ideas about how society should handle it all.
Right. We want to help you see past just the numbers in your account and grasp the underlying concepts.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in with a fundamental question that your source material kicks off with. Have you ever really stopped to think about what money actually is? Beyond, what's sitting in your bank.
Because the document starts with this pretty mind-bending idea. Money isn't like gravity. It's not a natural law.
It's something we humans invented.
That's the key insight. The power money holds. Undeniable. But unlike gravity, it doesn't exist independently of us. Its strength comes from something much more, well, fragile, maybe.
Fragile how?
Our collective belief in it. And how our shared actions, reinforce that belief day in, day out.
Okay, so it's a human construct. That makes sense. Let's dig into why we even bothered inventing it then. The document explains that at its heart, money's a tool, right? Made to make exchanging value easier than barter.
And barter, yeah. Trading your prized tomatoes for your neighbor's fresh bread, that kind of thing.
Right, and your source material really highlights how inefficient barter could be.
Oh, totally. Imagine you've got tomatoes, but the baker, already swimming in tomatoes, needs shoes, maybe.
That's the classic double coincidence of wants, isn't it? You both need to have something the other desires at the same time.
A real logistical headache.
Yeah. And it gets even messier when you try trading things that aren't easily, divisible, like trading an afternoon of chores for some grain.
Exactly. How much grain is an afternoon worth? How do you even measure that consistently? Barter lacks that common language for value.
And a universally accepted way to make the trade happen.
Precisely. That's where money steps in. As your document puts it, pretty neatly, money acts as the universal middleman.
A middleman, okay. Makes transactions flow much more smoothly, allows for more flexibility.
Way more flexibility.
So money emerges to smooth out those bumps in the trading road. Now, the document goes on to break down the core ways it does this. The three fundamental functions of money. What are those?
Okay, the first one is as a medium of exchange. We've kind of touched on this.
Right, avoiding the direct swaps.
Yeah. It lets us trade without those often cumbersome swaps. You get paid money for your work, then you use that money to buy food, clothes, whatever, from pretty much anyone who accepts it.
It's like a layer of abstraction that just simplifies things.
Exactly. Makes things much simpler.
Okay, makes sense. It's the lubricant for the wheels of commerce, sort of. What's the second function?
The second is that money serves as a unit of account.
A unit of account.
Think of it like a common measuring stick. A way to compare the value of totally different things.
Ah, okay. Like the example in the document. Is a chair worth 10 eggs or 100 eggs?
Exactly. Money gives us that standard measure so we can easily understand the relative worth of a chair versus eggs versus anything else. It provides a shared language for value.
Got it. So it gives us a way to put a number on things, makes comparisons straightforward. And the third critical function.
The final core function is as a store of value.
Store of value.
Meaning?
Ideally, money should hold its worth over time. So you can save what you earn today and use it to buy things, next week, next year, without its value just vanishing.
Right, which overcomes that problem with barter, like trying to save up perishable goods.
Precisely. You can't exactly save up a surplus of haircuts for next year, can you? Or pile up fish. No, definitely not. So, okay, simplifies exchange, common measure of value, lets us save. But this kind of begs the question, and one your document raises directly, why does this whole system actually work? What's the secret sauce?
And the answer, as your source material explains it, is both, simple and kind of profound.
Yeah.
Because we all agree that it does.
To remit, that's it.
That's the fundamental, almost magical aspect of money.
So it's really kind of all in our heads.
Pretty much. Yeah, take a $100 bill. Physically, it's just paper and ink. Or think about the digital dollars in your online bank account.
Just numbers on a screen.
Right. Just numbers in a computer database.
Mm-hmm.
Intrinsically, they don't have much value at all.
Yet we treat them like they have incredible power.
Exactly. because we collectively believe that these bits of paper or digital records represent value, and crucially because we trust that others will accept them for the things we want or need.
That belief makes them powerful.
Incredibly powerful. And this belief, as your document emphasizes, isn't something innate like hunger. It's a social construct, a shared story we all buy into.
And reinforced with our actions, like you said.
Exactly. And what's fascinating, and maybe a little scary, is to think about how fragile that shared belief could potentially be.
Yeah, history's seen currencies collapse when that trust disappears, right?
Absolutely. It's happened many times.
Which leads straight into that really interesting question of whether money is actually real. Your document has that neat little table comparing it to other things. Let's walk through it. First up, gravity, document says. Definitely real.
Yep. Gravity exists whether we believe in it or not. Drop an apple, it falls. Simple as that. Fundamental force of nature.
Then we get to money itself. The source labels it kinda real. What's with the kinda?
Because, like we just discussed, its existence, its value, it's entirely dependent on human agreement. If everyone suddenly decided tomorrow that, I don't know, bottle caps were the new money, our current dollars would lose their power.
So it's real socially but not physically.
Exactly. It's real in a social sense because of our collective behavior, but not like a law of physics.
And Bitcoin gets the same kind of real label.
For the exact same reason, fundamentally.
Yeah.
The technology is different. Sure, it's decentralized, but its value still hinges on people believing in it, trusting it, and being willing to exchange it. The reliance on collective agreement is still there.
Then there's monopoly money. Gets a clear no on realness.
Right, because the agreement about monopoly money, it only exists within the rules and context of the game. Outside the game, it's just colorful paper. No one's accepting it for groceries.
So the big takeaway, money is real socially because we treat it as real, but not physically or universally. It exists because we believe it does.
Precisely. And because of this socially constructed reality, money takes on this power that goes way beyond just being a tool for trade. Your document then really digs into its psychological and social clout.
Right, it becomes a symbol, like a symbol of success, for one.
Yeah, definitely. In many societies, how much money you have is often used as this quick shorthand for status, for achievement.
Which can be pretty superficial, obviously.
Oh, totally. It can become a primary way we measure ourselves and others, unfortunately.
And it's also a means of control, isn't it?
Yeah.
Highlighting power dynamics.
For sure. Access to money, control over financial resources. That gives individuals or groups significant influence. Think business leverage, political influence, even dynamics within families or relationships.
And it carries this huge emotional weight, fear, desire.
Absolutely. Our relationship with money is often tangled up with deep emotions. The fear of not having enough, the constant longing for more. These are powerful drivers of behavior, sometimes healthy, sometimes really not.
And the document even mentions it being a source of identity or shame, which feels very culturally influenced.
It is how we view money, how it affects our self-worth. That's shaped so much by our culture, our upbringing. What one society sees as success, another might view as suspicion. And financial struggles, they can lead to profound shame.
It's heavy stuff.
It is. And the crucial point, again, is that money's powerful grip on our lives, our dreams, our judgments,
Yeah.
it all ultimately stems from this collective agreement, this shared story.
Okay, so given all those headaches with barter, the double coincidence, the valuation problems, it's pretty clear why humans would want something better, like money.
Yeah, let's quickly revisit those inconveniences the document laid out. That double coincidence of wants was just a massive blocker.
Trying to trade your specific skill for the exact thing you need from someone who needs your skill right then, yeah, sounds painful.
Incredibly inefficient. And then the standard of value issue.
Yeah.
How many apples is a goat worth?
Right. There's no objective measure. It's all negotiation all the time. Subjective.
Exactly. And finally, storing value. That was a huge problem. Food rots, animals die.
Skills can't really be bottled up for later.
Right. Durable money, even early commodity forms, offered a way to preserve wealth over time. Much better than storing surplus fish.
So money solves some really fundamental problems. Okay, let's take that quick trip through the history of money as your document outlines it. Starts way back, prehistoric times, with barter.
Correct. Direct trade. Worked locally, on a small scale. But yeah, those limitations we talked about pushed for something more.
Then we move into the ancient era, maybe 3000 BCE, with commodity money. What were people actually using?
Things with intrinsic value. Stuff that was useful or desirable in itself. Think cowrie shells, pretty, portable. Salt, essential for preserving food. And of course, precious metals like gold and silver are valued for rarity and beauty.
So the value was in the object itself.
Exactly.
Next up, classical period around 700 BCE brings metal coins. Feels like a big step.
Huge leap. Standardized coins, stamped by rulers like the Greeks, the Romans, much more portable, durable, easily recognizable. Plus, its standardized value, less need to constantly weigh and check purity.
Then fast forward, medieval China. Paper money. That seems incredibly early.
It was revolutionary. The Tang and Song dynasties introduced banknotes. Basically, promises to pay the bearer a certain amount of metal, like gold or silver. Much easier for big trades or moving money long distances than hauling sacks of coins.
Though, I bet it came with its own problem.
Oh yeah, inflation, counterfeiting. Those issues started early too.
Then the Renaissance in Europe. Banking and credit start taking shape.
Right. Trade expands, so you need better ways to manage and move money. Things like bills of exchange, kind of like early checks and promissory notes emerge. This laid the groundwork for modern banking.
Then the 20th century. A major shift. Moving off the gold standard to fiat currency. What does fiat mean here?
Good question. So historically, many currencies were tied directly to gold. You could, in theory, exchange your paper money for a set amount of gold. Fiat money, which is mostly what we use today, isn't backed by a physical commodity like gold.
So what backs it?
Its value is declared by the government, that's the fiat part, like an order or decree, and it's maintained through public trust in that government and the economy's stability.
Gives governments more flexibility, but maybe more risk, too.
Exactly. More flexibility in managing the money supply, but yeah, carries the risk of inflation if not managed well.
And that brings us pretty much to today. Digital money, crypto.
The whole explosion. Credit cards, online payments, mobile apps, and then cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, operating totally differently on decentralized networks. It's a landscape that's changing incredibly fast.
It's amazing seeing that evolution over millennia. Okay, your document also tackles a question that seems simple but isn't. Why so many different currencies? Why not just one global money?
Yeah, there are a few big reasons. First, national sovereignty and identity.
Like a symbol of being independent.
Exactly. A nation's currency is often tied up with its history, its culture, its independence. Controlling your own currency is a way to express autonomy on the world stage. National pride is definitely part of it.
Makes sense. What else?
Second, having your own currency gives a country control over its monetary policy.
Meaning they can set their own interest rates, manage inflation.
Precisely. Each country can tweak its own economic levers, interest rates, money supply, to try and hit specific goals, like keeping inflation low or boosting jobs. It's a powerful tool for managing the domestic economy.
Got it. Independent economic management. What's the third reason?
Trade and economic stability. A country's exchange rate, the value of its currency compared to others, hugely impacts its international trade.
How so?
Well, a country might let its currency value fall to make its exports cheaper and more attractive to other countries. Or they might adjust it to help manage inflation coming from imported goods. It's another lever they can pull.
And your material mentions the Eurozone as an example of countries sharing a currency.
Right, which shows the flip side. Sharing the euro reduces transaction costs between members, helps integrate economies, for sure. But
they lose that independent control over monetary policy.
exactly. They have to coordinate economic policies, and one country can't just adjust interest rates to deal with its own specific economic problems. It's a trade-off.
Okay, so different currencies for identity, independent management, and trade reasons. Let's shift gears now to the big ideas, the philosophies on how money and the economy should be managed societally. Your document lays out several quite different perspectives.
Absolutely. And this is where you see some really fundamental disagreements about the best way to organize things, the role money should play. And just to be clear, we're just outlining the perspectives presented in the source material here, not endorsing any particular view.
Right, important point. Okay, first up is capitalism, private ownership, free markets.
The core idea, as presented, is private individuals' businesses own the means of production. Free markets, driven by supply and demand, are seen as the most efficient way to allocate resources. Money is a key incentive here, drives innovation, productivity. Generally, it favors minimal government interference, trusting the invisible hand of the market.
But the document also notes the criticism, right, about inequality.
Yes, the potential for significant economic inequality is a major criticism often leveled against purely capitalist systems.
Okay, then contrasting that is socialism. More focus on social ownership, public welfare.
Socialism, as described here, tends to see money more as a tool for equity, for meeting everyone's needs. It often advocates for more government involvement, redistributing wealth through taxes to fund public services like healthcare, education, maybe even state ownership of key industries.
And the criticism noted here.
The document mentions the common criticism that this approach might potentially reduce innovation or lead to economic inefficiencies.
Next is the Austrian school. Sounds specific. They like hard money, minimal government.
Yeah, the Austrian school emphasizes sound money, often favoring a return to commodity-backed currency, like gold. They're very skeptical of central banks printing fiat money, believing it creates artificial booms and busts. Strong faith in free markets, minimal government intervention across the board.
Then there's Keynesianism. This one argues for a more active government role, especially using fiscal policy.
Right. Keynesian economics suggests government should step in to stabilize the economy during downturns, increase spending, cut taxes to boost demand. During booms, do the opposite, reduce spending, raise taxes to cool things down, and prevent overheating. It supports using government spending on things like infrastructure and welfare programs.
Your document also mentions modern monetary theory, MMT. This one sounds quite different regarding government debt.
It is. M&T argues that countries issuing their own currency, like the U.S., aren't constrained like households. They can't technically run out of their own money, so deficits aren't inherently bad as long as inflation is kept under control. The focus should be on using government spending to achieve goals like full employment.
But the document notes a big if there, right? The inflation risk?
Absolutely. The risk of runaway inflation if the government spends too much without the economy having the capacity to absorb it is a major concern raised by critics and acknowledged in the source.
And finally, the document touches on degrowth or anti-capitalist models. These sound pretty radical.
They offer a fundamental critique of the current system's focus on endless growth, arguing it's unsustainable, environmentally, and socially unjust. They often advocate for shifting towards smaller scale, local economies, things like gift economies, community bartering, and just fundamentally rethinking our relationship with consumption.
Criticisms mentioned for these.
Often center on practicality and scalability. How do you implement these ideas in a complex, globalized world? Are they idealistic? Those are common questions raised.
Wow, quite a spectrum of ideas. Okay,
Yeah.
to make sure we're all grounded when discussing this stuff, your document includes a glossary of core economic terms. Let's quickly define a few key ones. First, supply and demand. Seems basic, but crucial.
Super basic, super crucial. Supply, how much of something is available. Demand, how much people want it. High demand, low supply. Price goes up, low demand, high supply, price goes down.
Like the strawberry example in the document, out of season, less supply, price is higher.
Exactly. Simple push and pull.
Then inflation. We hear this one a lot.
Inflation is a general increase in prices across the economy over time. Your money buys less than it used to. The document mentions causes like too much money, chasing too few goods, or rising production costs, like bread getting more expensive year after year.
And the opposite is deflation. Things getting cheaper sounds good, but the document says it can be bad.
Yeah, it sounds nice initially, but deflation can be really damaging. If people expect prices to keep falling, they delay spending. Why buy today if it's cheaper tomorrow?
So demand drops, businesses suffer, people might lose jobs, a downward spiral.
Exactly. The car example in the source illustrates that negative cycle well.
Okay, unemployment rate.
Simply the percentage of the workforce actively looking for a job but can't find one. High unemployment usually signals a weak economy. Your material also mentions the Phillips curve. That's a suggested trade-off between unemployment and inflation, though it's not always a stable relationship.
Interest rate. This is set by central banks often.
Yep, a key tool. It's the cost of borrowing money, or the reward for saving it. Higher rates tend to slow borrowing and spending, potentially curbing inflation. Lower rates encourage borrowing and spending, potentially stimulating the economy. Think about how mortgage rates affect the housing market.
Makes sense. Then GDP, gross domestic product, the big one for measuring an economy.
It's the main one, yeah. Total value of all finished goods and services produced within a country in a specific period, usually a year. Rising GDP generally means the economy's growing. Falling GDP can mean a slowdown or recession.
But the document adds a caveat, right? It doesn't measure everything.
Right. A higher GDP often correlates with a better standard of living, but it doesn't capture income inequality, environmental damage, or other aspects of well-being. It's just one number.
Good point. And quickly, recession versus depression.
A recession is a significant, widespread economic decline lasting more than a few months, often defined as 2 consecutive quarters of falling GDP. A depression is much worse, a severe, prolonged downturn, like the Great Depression, high unemployment, lots of business failures last for years.
Okay. And the difference between fiscal policy and monetary policy.
Fiscal policy is the government using spending and taxes to influence the economy. Tax cuts or increased government spending are fiscal tools. Monetary policy is the central bank managing the money supply and interest rates. Raising or lowering interest rates is a key monetary tool.
Got it. Government versus central bank actions. Lastly, currency exchange rate.
Just the value of one currency relative to another, crucial for international trade and travel, affects the price of imported goods and how much your money is worth abroad, like the USD to EUR example shows.
Okay, these are definitely foundational.
Yeah.
Now, your document also specifically discusses taxes and tariffs. Let's start with taxes. Beyond just paying the government, what's their purpose?
Fundamentally, taxes are mandatory payments governments collect to finance public goods and services. Think roads, schools, hospitals, defense. Things that benefit society broadly, and that the private market might not provide efficiently or equitably on its own.
So, funding public services is number one. What else?
The document lists a few others. Wealth redistribution using progressive taxes to reduce inequality, influencing behavior like taxes on cigarettes or sugary drinks, and economic stabilization using tax changes as part of fiscal policy, like rebates during a downturn.
And there are always debates about the level of taxes. Pros and cons of higher taxes.
Proponents argue higher taxes mean better public services and can reduce inequality. Opponents worry they can discourage investment and economic activity, maybe leading to tax avoidance.
And the arguments around lower taxes.
Opponents say lower taxes boost spending and investment, stimulating growth. Opponents warn they can lead to cuts in public services and potentially worsen income inequality, depending on which taxes are cut.
Okay, now tariffs. These are specifically taxes on what?
On imported goods. When goods from another country enter, the government slaps a tax on them, making them more expensive for domestic consumers or businesses.
And why would a government do that? What are the goals?
Several reasons outlined. Protecting domestic industries from foreign competition is a big one. Making imports pricier makes local goods look cheaper. Also used as a bargaining tool in trade talks, or sometimes just to generate revenue.
What are the potential upsides, the pros, of using tariffs?
They can potentially help new or struggling domestic industries get established. They might protect jobs in those sectors. And, as mentioned, they can be a lever in international negotiations.
And the downsides, the cons?
A major one is that consumers usually pay higher prices. They can also trigger retaliation. Other countries put tariffs on your exports, leading to trade wars. Plus, they can prop up inefficient domestic companies and disrupt global supply chains, increasing costs for everyone.
So, like taxes, tariffs are complex tools with definite trade-offs. Okay, the final big section in your document shifts focus completely, from big economics to something really personal. Intuitive money management. This sounds different.
It is. It's described as getting in touch with your own financial rhythms and values and making decisions based on that internal compass rather than just rigid external rules like strict budgets.
So not anti-budget necessarily, but more self-aware.
Exactly. More about understanding your psychology around money, your natural patterns, your emotional triggers, and aligning your financial actions with what actually matters to you, aiming for well-being without constant deprivation or guilt.
Okay, the document outlines some core principles. First, know your natural financial rhythm. What does that mean?
It's about noticing your typical patterns. Are you a steady spender? Do you go in cycles? Naturally frugal? Or more generous? Understanding this helps you work with your tendencies, not fight them. Tracking feelings alongside spending, as suggested, can reveal why you spend the way you do.
Connecting emotions and spending, yeah, that seems key. Second principle, spend with intention, not impulse. How do we do that?
It's about pausing before buying. Asking, do I really need this? Does it align with my goals? Am I buying this out of emotion? It's about conscious choice, not just autopilot spending. The coffee example is good mindful treat or mindless habit.
Third, redefine needs versus wants, personally.
Right. Standard advice is often black and white, but this acknowledges it's personal. A gym membership might be a want, technically, but a crucial need for someone's mental health. It's about aligning spending with your values and well-being.
Fourth principle, recognizing and working with your natural spending cycles.
Yeah, like financial seasons. You might have harvest times with more income than leaner periods. Knowing this helps you plan and avoids guilt during downtimes or after an occasional splurge. Adjusting gently, not spiraling into shame, is key.
Fifth, build micro habits instead of rigid budgets. Examples.
Small, doable things, like a no-spend day each week, or 24-hour pause before online buys, or just taking a breath before purchasing. Small, consistent actions build awareness without feeling super restrictive.
Sixth, train your money mindset. This gets at our deeper beliefs, right?
Totally. Our past experiences, our family's views, they create deep beliefs. This principle is about becoming aware of those, forgiving past mistakes, understanding emotional triggers, and cultivating a sense of enough. Using mantras is one tool suggested.
And the final core principle, organize your life to support your finances, creating a helpful environment.
Yes, making choices that make financial well-being easier. Meal planning reduces food waste and takeout costs. Decluttering might reduce the urge to buy more. Automating savings. Finding healthy stress coping mechanisms other than retail therapy. It's about lifestyle design.
So summing up intuitive money management, the document says, spend on what feeds you, not what drains you. Let spending reflect the life you're building. That's quite powerful.
It is. And it leads nicely into the final thoughts in the document about coexisting with money in a broader, healthier way.
Going beyond just personal management.
Yeah, looking at our relationship with money in the wider world and within ourselves. Finding peace with it.
First principle here, align money with your values, using your spending power.
Exactly. Thinking. Does where my money goes reflect what I care about? Supporting ethical businesses, sustainable options, causes you believe in. Using your money as a vote for the world you want. Turning spending into a form of activism almost.
Second, participate in the gift economy, recognizing non-monetary value.
Yes. Reminding ourselves that not all value is money. Exchanging time, skills, care, art, food. These build community, reduce reliance on cash, and recognize the value in connection itself. Baking for a friend, trading skills.
Third, talk about money honestly, breaking the taboo.
Crucial. The secrecy creates stress and isolation. Open conversations with trusted people can break that down, offer support, share perspectives, makes navigating finances feel less lonely.
Fourth, detach self-worth from net worth. So important.
Especially in our culture. This reminds us, our value as humans isn't our bank balance. Financial situations change. Tying self-esteem to money makes our identity fragile.
Fifth, understand the system without internalizing it. Be informed, but not personally crushed by it.
Precisely. Learn how the economy works, inflation, wage gaps, policy to navigate better. But don't blame yourself for systemic issues or internalize all the societal pressure about wealth. Be empowered, not overwhelmed.
Sixth, build cycles of enoughness, defining enough for yourself.
Instead of the endless pursuit of more, figure out what enough looks like for you. Enough income, rest, joy. Then cultivate contentment when you reach it, stepping off that never-enough treadmill.
Seventh, design a life that costs less emotionally, reducing financial stress through lifestyle.
Yeah, making choices about where you live, work, how you consume, that prioritize well-being and reduce anxiety about bills. Meeting needs without constant hustle and stress.
And the final point, redefine wealth beyond just money.
Expanding the definition. Wealth can be time, relationships, creativity, health, purpose, connection to nature. Shifting focus from just financial accumulation to a life rich in meaning and experience.
The document ends with a really thoughtful quote. You can live in a money-driven world without becoming hollowed by it. Coexisting with money isn't a one-size-fits-all blueprint. It's a quiet revolution of choosing relationship over reaction. That's a great place to land.
It really ties it all together. As we've seen from your source material, money is so much more than just coins and notes. It's this deeply complex human invention shaping our world, our minds, our values.
Absolutely. And hopefully you, our listener, now have a deeper, more nuanced view of what it is, what it does, and all the different ways we think about handling it societally and personally. This has been really fascinating.
It has. And maybe as a final thought for you listening, building on that idea of coexisting, what's the one small shift you could make in your relationship with money? Something that aligns more with your values, your idea of enough? What does wealth truly mean to you beyond the bank balance?
Something worth pondering, for sure.